Hi, Parag.
Hello, Davina. So excited you joined, and there was no issues,
Yes,
right?
wonderful to see you.
Likewise, and there was no issues joining, so I guess that was good.
No, you do beautifully. I am so nervous with these Zoom meetings. I'm so relieved when I actually get on, and
No worries at
there's
all.
there's a contact. Yes. So,
Yes.
and how long have you been in Atlanta?
Oh, I've been in Atlanta. This house I built in 2005, so since 2004. I've been in US since 26 years. I came here to do
Really?
my yes. I came to New York. I did my master's in computer science, and
Oh, well,
from
well,
twenty yeah.
you're way ahead of me because anything to do with computers and technology are a challenge for me.
It's no, but what you and Bill, what you have done and what you know is beyond imagination. I mean, people who understand the subject, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm aware. A lot of people in this world they don't even know, right? What this
No,
is
I
about,
think
and yeah,
absolutely. And it's something, Parag. I think when I wrote to you, I think I said Parid, and I'm so sorry, it's Parag. So I
that's
apologize.
fine. No,
Yeah.
that's not an issue at
Um,
all, Davina.
but what most people don't realize that all the wonderful capabilities that are available to us,
Oh, that's true. And but
that we don't.
but I've known Rohit for 10 years. I'll share some experiences, why I'm so close to him,
Yes.
and at some point we'll share, because see, acceptance in India, because in India there are a lot of these black magic guys, and people take them for a ride. There are a lot of
Yes.
astrologers, and there are a lot of this,
Yes.
so they don't understand that this is science, and this
Yes.
is this is pure science. and
Absolutely. Yes. You're
and
right,
so
Parag.
I the reason I adore him, I admire him, is because to work in India is not easy. Western world
No.
is different. India
Yes.
is, because everything they compare, with this kind of bad guys, and all that stuff. So it's so
Yes.
difficult for him to.
Yes.
I mean, people whom I have introduced, right? I have introduced so many people, and he has healed so many guys.
Yes.
But when it comes to recognition, oh, he struggles so much even now, and that's
Yes.
why he has stopped communicating with a lot of people, because now he says that he tells very clearly. He says, if you tell me something, I'm okay, but do not ever say anything about my subject.
Yes.
And that he respects so much, and so that's a challenge. But now he's doing amazing things, because he's now involved with some of the scientists,
Yes.
who has been in the space program, other stuff, and he have shown those scientists could understand that what he's trying to do, and that's all he demonstrates
Yes.
exactly what Verne Cameron and Mr. Cox, Bill used to do, right? So
Yes.
all of
Yes.
this stuff, that's all he's been following all his life. I mean,
Yes.
he learned
Yes.
this maybe 10, 15, and then the other thing is, Davina, if he gets some help from you, and I wish Bill was there to help him,
Yes.
he can do wonders, because he doesn't have any help. All of these is his own findings, his own hard work, looking at the videos, looking at Bill's teachings, Warner Cameron's teachings, all of that stuff. And
Yes.
I got him an Aurameter from your site maybe about 4 or 5 years, and he tells me
Mm.
that it changed his entire life.
Yes. Yes.
So, but yeah, he wants to know. Oh my God, he's so awaiting, to talk to you and get any help to him, on because he wants to know, you are the only closest person to Bill. So he was 8 years old. He was taught astrology,
Yes.
so he knew astrology extremely well. And
Yes.
some of the top celebrities and all, he used to do a lot of individual astrology stuff and all. But then
Yes.
he moved somewhere. I think he started reading on Bill's work, and Werner Cameron and all, and then he started developing all of these on his own in the last 10, 12 years.
Yes.
And when I came in contact with him in 2013, and the moment I spoke to him, I was here, he was there. I didn't meet him for the first 1 year, but I used to talk to him. And I believed in his stuff from day one.
Yes.
because I come from a science background, so I could understand. We started off from astrology, but then he started sharing with me that, Parag, I do, and I'm like, wow. And then he started. I was his guinea pig kind of thing. He used to not experiment, but how it is, right? There's a lot of things, from a scientist point of view, there are a lot of things,
Yeah.
and normal people, they don't understand.
Yes.
Because in India, they question him. Oh, this work did. And how you can expect a person to grow unless you give him to experiment things,
Absolutely.
and that's where India struggles. The mindset in India is that, oh, it didn't work, all that stuff. And I was like,
Yeah.
don't worry, just keep going.
Yes.
We can pass, but that's a learning. See, the failure is always, I never see failure as negative, because failure is your biggest learning curve. You learn the best out of your
No, and there's no such thing as failure, really, as you say, because it's where you question and learn more.
Right. And
from everything.
see
And
how
being a pioneer in something is never easy.
Correct. And how beautifully you put it, right? But then see, awareness, right? People live out of ignorance. I've seen 90% of the people live out of ignorance, right?
Yeah.
Awareness is not something, and I say that, if you have even a 0.01% awareness, if you have in life, that solves most of the problems of the world, but that's unfortunate about, human beings. So, and then, one after another in last 3-4 years, so he used to tell me, okay, can you, and had I known, he told me before, I would have contacted you and Bill long back, so, and he had no clue that Bill is not anymore.
Parag, sorry to interrupt. I didn't mean to do that, but just so as I'm clear, does he practice dowsing on other people for healing, or is that more like a hobby, or is that something that he teaches, or what does he do?
No, so I'll explain you. See, through dowsing is just, you can investigate. Am I correct? You can know, right? But you can't have a solution through dowsing, right?
Yeah.
But because of, the Hindu religion, right? The saints we had like 1,000 years back, they used to do healing, remote healing, right?
Yes.
So in the healing, you have, all the 7 chakras, you have the colors, you have the corresponding gems, right? And so he knew all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So let's say through dowsing, he'll explain you. And I'm the one, I've exactly seen this. So he'll dowse it. And then either through your DNA or just by your photograph, he actually cured one of my best friend's dad in COVID. He was in Atlanta. I'll tell you, that's the biggest case study I'm going to share with you. He did it in front of me last year. His dad the doctors were telling my friend to pull the plug because he was completely on life support, was not breathing on his own.
Yeah.
He had 100% lungs were completely, fibrosis had developed. And I contacted him, and that gentleman, that my friend's dad, is right now at his home. And that was completely, doctors were amazed. The whole medical team was amazed. He's sitting in India just by a photograph and DNA healed.
Yes.
And he thinks that, and he's very clear that, your human body can heal by itself.
Yes, absolutely.
And he has cured cancer patients. This is the live example. I just told you, Mithil Patel, my friend in Atlanta. And we have the videos. He has got ASTRO-DOWSING. I'll share with you. He has a YouTube channel, Rohit, ASTRO-DOWSING.com. And that he started exploring with the Aurameter, his life changed.
Yes.
So and I've seen, I was in Mumbai about right in December, right before Christmas.
Yes.
And one of the top artists, a Bollywood artist, she's a top singer. Me and him, we went to her house, and he, with the Aurameter, he told upfront that there are 3 spirits right there in the house. And he could sense, and and they were just amazed that how could this happen.
So what is his website, Parag?
So astrodowsing.com, but it's not fully. I'm trying to help him develop. But if you go on, you will see him.
I'm sorry, what was the first word?
Astro. I'm going to put it in chat. Astro, ASTRO.
Okay, Astro. Okay.
Dowsing, and that's his YouTube channel as well.
ASTRO-DOWSING. That's interesting. Yeah.
If you go, that's his channel.
Yes.
On YouTube, and you will see a lot of things he's explaining, how these things work. The
Yes.
problem he's facing is where we need, where you can, one thing you can help him is, Bill's teachings. He wants to go as deep as he can. And
Yes.
you probably know other people in the world, but I know only him who is the biggest exponent of Bill's teachings.
Well, there's one person in Japan that I think teaches Bill's methods, but I'm not sure because Bill's work goes all around the world, so I'm not sure who's out there teaching it. I mean, I didn't know about Rahid until you mentioned it. So there may be people out there that are doing things that, many people buy the aurameters to work and work with vibrational frequencies.
Right.
So as they can do more more dowsing with the subtle fields, and then working with that way to get these more like radionics.
Right.
They will find these frequency rates. Yes.
Correct. So now you see he's a very unique thing.
Yes.
Dowsing is one thing, but healing, what he does because of his other stuff, right?
Yes.
I think he's the most unique person because see, I think have you heard of Tom Palladino in Florida?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so Tom Palladino also uses sound and light frequency to heal, right?
Yes.
And I've seen, I have experienced, Davina, it's real time. What he does is real time.
Yes.
On my grid, he puts a certain thing. My family was detected COVID, and he said, Parag, give me 10 minutes. And he said, tomorrow you go, you won't, the COVID the report would come negative. But he was the one who could tell that, how in my house, where COVID got from my kid, and that was through astro-dowsing. That was through an aurameter.
Yes.
Because he could say exactly the root cause, where it came from.
Yes.
This Mithal's dad, whom he revived, right? He was amazed when Rohit told him that, it was the 5th day when you guys realized that your dad has a COVID. It was almost 4th or 5th day, and that's why the damage was done.
Wow.
So he was amazed. He said, we didn't see any of this stuff.
Yes.
Sure. So that's Rohit. Rohit, that's
lovely to meet you. Hi.
Pranam, madam, Pranam.
Oh.
My respectful Pranam to you, and this is the highest respect and gratitude we show to our seniors. Pranam is a very holy word in India.
So pranam in the sense he says, pranams, Indians say.
Yes, absolutely. Salam. Yes.
Sure.
We say namaste.
Correct. It's the same thing. Namaste, pranam.
Yes, namaste. Yes. So lovely to meet you and hear about all your work.
I'm really very much excited and delighted that I could get that privilege and chance to talk to you. And
Dada, put your microphone near your mouth, if you can.
It is almost like dream comes true for me. So,
well, I'm so sorry that Bill isn't here and you're not able to talk to Bill directly. But I'm in a room where Bill and I worked together for many, many years in our office together. So his energy is very strong in this room. When he died, when he passed over, we had a lot of phenomena happening in this.
Wow. When was that, Davina?
He died in 13 years ago, 2009.
Oh, 2009.
Okay. Yes. But after he passed away, we experienced a lot of phenomena. To me, he he's not dead. He's still. Wow. Oh, there we go. There we go.
Wow.
Lovely to see you both.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, madam.
Yes.
Thank you.
It is really wonderful, and it is almost like I'm talking to the great Bill Cox. I can feel his presence through you. So it is a very divine presence. And my humble request is, please, you bless me so that I can serve better to my nation and to the world. And that is my humble request to you, because I feel it is my extremely great privilege that I am just talking to you, and I could see you, and it is a very big thing for me. I'm extremely excited, and you can say I'm flabbergasted. So my request is, I want to listen. Both of us are really eagerly waiting to listen something from your mouth about Sir Bill Cox, because to me, Verne Cameron is a god of modern dowsing, and Bill Cox is the son of Verne Cameron. So I must say that I am talking to a family of son of God.
No, well, Bill, I think what I get from both of you, and that was very dear to Bill, is a very open and pure heart.
Right.
Bill had a very open and pure heart, and everything he did was done with pure intent to help people. That in his work, and so every job he did, he gave 150% of himself, whether it was lecturing, or it was working for clients, or writing a book, or whatever. Everything was always done. It's like consciousness worked through him to anchor something here on the physical plane. Yes.
Right.
And I'm sure it's the same with your work, Rohit, and Parag, whatever you do, as long as we do it with pureness of intent, that anchors life force through us. Right,
madam. Right.
Yes. And so what questions do you have? Sorry, what questions do you have about Bill? I'd be happy to answer.
These are not questions, madam, with due respect. These are some inquisitive thing which actually, when I get a chance to talk to you, so this is somewhere in the back of my mind, that how the machine was talking to Sir Bill Cox, and how he was receiving the informations, and what kind of experience you have enjoyed when you worked in so many places with that is the main thing which I want to know from you. And apart from that, what kind of signals you have received, and what kind of complicated situations you have faced, and how you have faced those situations, and how you detected. This actually I want to know, if you kindly share with me.
Okay, well, firstly, just to give you a little background, Bill was lecturing at a big Mind, Body, Spirit festival in London, and I had met him very briefly in someone's house, and but only for a few moments. And then I was going up to this center to go to this Mind, Body, Spirit festival in London, because I'm British, I'm from England. And when I got on the train to go there was Bill sitting on the tube looking at me. So I had just met him. And so there was an immediate connection. And then we ended up, after a very short time, getting together in very unusual ways. I mean, it's like the universe, it was a predetermined situation that we would come together. So my point in sharing is that right from the start, there was a wonderful heart rapport, a wonderful heart energy. And I only came to the United States for a holiday, and we had started to meet, and Bill would come back to England a little bit to lecture, and then he was going to come and live in England, and we were going to get married. And then I came out to Santa Barbara, to the United States, for a holiday, and the day I was packed ready to fly back, something happened, and like the universe, something else happened, and I never went back to Britain. So we had a very unusual way of coming together. So that heart energy, it was almost as if there was a telepathic and psychic rapport there right from the get-go, right from the beginning. And so Bill and I just worked constantly as a team. When he lectured, we would go and do things together, lecture together, mostly, I'd be there supporting Bill, sometimes doing co-lectures with him. When he was out dowsing for clients, I would always be there with him. So it's almost like we were in this symbiotic energy when he was working. One was in this intuitive space with him as he was, dowsing. And I think what might be interesting to you both from a scientific standpoint, when he was in Japan talking and lecturing and also working for clients, which he did professionally, they did some biofeedback on him, and they discovered that the minute he started dowsing, and he's very conscious and aware. I mean, he's walking, he's using the Aurameter, always use the Aurameter, and he's walking. And then they had biofeedback equipment on him. And the minute he started dowsing, he went from beta to theta brainwaves. He dropped straight from beta into theta. Even though he was walking and people were with him, he was constantly in a theta brainwave situation. So when you're out, so with his dowsing, he had that the ability to drop into that deep meditative state, but still be absolutely conscious of what was happening around him, especially if he was out dowsing in terrain that was not so, sort of friendly. You had to be careful with rattlesnakes and things like that. So it's almost as if he went into this and this whole energy and aura expanded, and me being next to him, I was, part of that. So he created a field of consciousness around him that seemed to, even animals, and he would go by rattlesnakes and things and they wouldn't respond. They were just very passive when he would walk by them. I mean, the animals and nature. And if he was out, he dowsed for many, many things. Dowsing was one aspect of Bill. He was deeply interested in ancient cultures and civilizations. He loved India. He went on a trip to India, which he loved. But wherever he went, if he had a client that was asking him to look for water, I know but he would always ask nature permission. He would never just go in and assume that he had the right to go in, and if he found water, how that was going to affect the environment, and so that was always something he did right from the beginning, was to go in and ask the nature world permission for him to work. And if he got a no, then he wouldn't do it. If the answer when he went in and intuitively had this sense that, no, this was not, good for the environment, then he would not do that, and he would try and seek another place where it was more friendly for nature for them to. So he deeply respected the interconnectedness of life. And I think, Rahid, with Bill, and it's probably the same with you and Parag, he always ended up with more questions. He never felt he had all the answers. There was always another level of awareness to explore in his world. And so I think he was very charismatic, and people just responded to him because you felt this pure energy coming through him. And as I say, but he also was very playful. He he was also a very talented musician.
Wow.
Played clarinet and sax. I hear you're a singer. So
yeah, he plays sitar. He plays the sitar.
Oh,
I'll send you.
Yes.
I'll send you his video.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Bill, when he got out of the Navy after the war, he was in Hollywood playing clarinet and saxophone for the big bands in some of the big bands in Hollywood.
Wow.
So that was his. So music was a wonderful introduction, I think, for him to dowsing, because you begin to be more sensitive, don't you? For and he would have a lot of very unusual experiences, sort of with his dowsing. where he could determine, because one of the things I'm thinking now of things that he pragmatically that he did in the field, because often Parag and I were talking about this, Rohit, it's very difficult for people that are very skeptical to even believe that any of these things are possible. Because if they can't see it or touch it physically, they don't understand the subtle world of influences and everything that's, you know, is out there in the subtle fields that we can be aware of, but mostly we're not. So one of the things, if he was out, say, I'm just going to give you some examples with water dowsing, but he did archaeological dowsing, and then not so much for healing. But anyway, so when he was out dowsing, just to give you some examples, he would be mapping the underground with his mind. So he would be walking over areas of very hard terrain very often. And all the time when he found a dowsing site that he felt there was good primary water potential, which is the water that comes up deep from the magma. And then he would work out where the aquifers, the water was flowing, say at one level, how deep that level was, how much water was flowing through that particular aquifer. Then he'd go to the next one and he would do these overlays of what water was showing down to about, say, 700 feet or even more. And then he would determine the strength of these aquifers, how they lined up with each other, how much there might be a slope where there was it would be more water just at one angle than another. So you had all these overlays, and he would give all this information to the geologists when he was working. And so he'd have all these overlays happening, and then he would have to determine if they drilled, where exactly they drilled, so they could go through all these levels and catching the maximum amount of water from their drilling. But also taking into account that when you drill, you normally don't drill straight. You can go off at an angle. So the geologist would be given all this information, and then he would be able to tell them the quality of the water, that we say in the total dissolved solids of the water, and the potential of the purity of the water. So he gave them amazing amounts, as well as the quantities that they would be able to get. Anyway, so he gave them an amazing amount of information that he didn't want to know anything about the area where he was going. He didn't want to know anything about the geology. He wanted to go in with his mind totally free to allow the intuition to be able to give him the answers. So very often, he would choose a dowsing site. There's one aspect of Bill, it's a small aspect of Bill, but I'm talking about this side of his dowsing work, and other than the radionics and the other side of it. But so when he would give all this information and they would drill, he was amazingly accurate. I mean, he would be like 5 feet off, 10, which is amazing, because he didn't know anything about it. He was just receiving all this information through his the right brain intuitive consciousness. And so there was one job in particular where the owner, a very wealthy man here, owns 2 very big ranches. And with the geologists, they had drilled down to 2,000 feet, and they had only got 20 gallons of water per minute, which is nothing. I mean, that's a lot. 2,000 feet for 20 gallons.
Yeah.
That's
it's a lot of effort and money, yeah.
Absolutely. And then so when Bill went, the man had heard about Bill and said, I want to try Bill and see how dowsing will work, finding me water. And so where Bill went out, we went out, and Bill came up with a site, and the geologist said, you're never going to get any water here. And, you know, the owner said, well, you know, you haven't worked, let's give Bill a try. And so they drilled, and Bill was deadly accurate with anything. And the first well came in at 1,500 gallons a minute.
Wow.
Which was huge. And then he subsequently found 11 other wells on the ranch, all over 500 gallons a minute and totally independent of each other. So they weren't, one well wasn't pulling down from another.
Yep.
They were all producing independently. So that was just one side of Bill. And then the other was his great interest in Egypt and ancient cultures and civilizations. So he would go to these ancient places and dowse the energy fields and ask questions and find out what he could about what had gone on in the past. And, you know, he was wonderfully accurate from an archaeological and from that standpoint. And he'd also dowsed a special passageway from the Great Pyramid to the Sphinx, which later turned out to be true. So he used dowsing, and then also from the radionics field of working with the vibrational physics to understand, like you do, Rohit, how the, you know, what vibration to use or what are the subtle fields that are affecting the people that you're treating. So, you know, these were all aspects of Verne and Bill. And then map dowsing, you know, people would send him great earthsat maps of areas to know where there was water. So he would spend hours with these map dowsing, these great areas with amazing accuracy.
Wow.
So just from a map, because as Bill would explain, the mind has no limitation.
True. Very true.
You know, you can, Rohit, you can do that with a patient. You're there, wherever your mind is where your consciousness is at that moment. So you limit yourself. You only limit yourself as to your abilities and to what you can do. And I remember one incident where he was out dowsing. I think it was on one of the Indian reservations, the Native American Indian reservations, because he had huge respect for them. And he used to lecture at the Navajo Center here in America. But I think so. It was a very difficult terrain, and the electromagnetic field he was following meant him having to go up this sort of very rugged terrain, and, you know, a lot of extra effort and energy. So I remember he sat down and he said, "Okay, this hill does not limit me. I can go through this hill to the other side, and I can continue dowsing just sitting here," which is what he did.
So from sitting on one hill, he could douse through other hills. Wow.
Yes. So, Rohit, do you have any questions, you guys?
Yes, madam. My question was that did you see did you see any other device other than Aurameter which sir was using at the time of dowsing?
No, Bill always used the Aurameter.
Only Aurameter.
Only Aurameter, yes.
Wonderful.
Anyway, so he would be holding the Aurameter, walking in front and holding it, waiting for a change, and he would be in his mind. He'd already asked the question, is there moving underground water here? Always had to be moving. And then having asked that with the left brain, you have to completely surrender and be totally in the moment with the Aurameter, just open. And then through the autonomic nervous system, the Aurameter, when it picks up that electromagnetic field, would start to move and very often come back. So that was the way. So he was holding the Aurameter out in front of him, looking for a change in energy. And then he was always looking for crossings of energy. So, but then when he wanted to determine the quantities and have more, he would sort of find the site. And then he would want to know, okay, how much water is down here? Having determined that this was a very good area, he would then want to know, okay, what are the specifics of this area? And so what he would do, he would change the pointer of the Aurameter and have it turning down, so as it weighted differently. So it felt a little different. So that sort of helped him change from the one mode of dowsing just that subtle change in the aurameter with the tip enabled him to have a slightly different feel to the aurameter and change his mode over to where suddenly he was dowsing for depths and quantities. So it was a slightly different change in the field, which helped him to adjust very subtly to then, and you know, the most difficult part, Rohit, of any of that work for Bill, and I'm sure it's the same for you, was dowsing for numbers and quantities. That is one of the hardest things to do. You can normally pick up with the aurameter the electromagnetic field as it's moving, or the water as it's moving. But to go to depths and quantities with accuracy, it takes a lot of you know, practice and skill. And then another thing which I'm sure you found that's important, that Bill would always know when he determined, you know, because when you're dowsing, you've got left and right brain, but you also have the forebrain, which is where the real consciousness, that theta brain consciousness is, you know. And for Bill, you could always tell vibrationally when you were in that frequency. It's like you held that frequency. However, and it's probably the same for you, that the thing to be is to know when you're out of that. Because if you're not totally in that field of consciousness, you could have walked over something. You could have missed something when you were doing your healing for people. So it's almost as if you always keep stepping back, and behind that field is this other consciousness that's saying, you've broken, you know, you need to reconnect because you've broken that connection, particular field and connection. So then you have to ask, who's the watcher that's watching behind that field? Do you know what I mean? So Yep. You're in that field, but then to know that, to be aware enough that you're suddenly out of it, you're going along and you may have, you know, passed over something, or if you're dowsing on a map, you may have passed over an area which may be 5 miles, you know, square or something. So then the trick is, what is the consciousness behind that that's the observer of it all? So you know, so you keep going back to these subtler and subtler fields of contact within ourselves, which we can all do. It's nothing special to Bill and Verne Cameron, but it's interesting how you learn this whole field of energy and the interaction and the symbiosis that's going on in this field as you're maybe dowsing, Rohit, and as Bill is dowsing. So it's you know, it's very interesting point when you think about it. When Verne used to go out in the field originally, and I have his original instruments here, he would have about 5 different instruments, you know, so he would be carrying these like 5 different instruments. And then he sort of said, well, you know, this is so much that I need to, and he was a sort of inventor. He said, I need to try and come up with something that will, you know, be all 5. Instead of having 5, I've got 1. So he made this really crude instrument, you know, the aurameter. It was really quite crude at first, but it started to work for him. And then he began to make it more. And then he just, when he was dying, he handed all his information over. They worked together in the field. Bill and Verne worked together, and Bill, they had a wonderful relationship. And then when he was dying, he handed everything over to Bill. So Bill began to improve the aurameter, you know, because of using it himself with the weight and the balance. And, you know, so it went from being an aurameter, but it really became much more balanced and a more professional. As Bill used it, he refined it, I think we would say, over the years. So that's why we have on our website the original Cameron aurameter, because there's some people out there making aurameters and saying they're Cameron aurameters, but they're really...
That is the biggest problem with me, because I don't know who is correct and who is wrong. And fortunately, I'm talking to you, and I know that Parag has given the aurameter. It is from your institute. And I'm confirmed about it, and it is responding so nicely. But one question is there: did you meet Sir Verne Cameron in your life?
I never, when Bill and I married, Byrne had just died. I never actually met him. I know.
Okay.
They were both brilliant, but not because Bill was my husband or anything like that, but they, from an objective standpoint, in their field, they were both brilliant, as I'm sure you're brilliant in your field as well.
No, I'm not brilliant.
But they would never say they were. They were very humble. They never.
They are my teachers, and they're the God level. They're the God of dowsing. So I am just trying to follow their pathway. I just try to follow their footprints. That's it. But I am nowhere close to their talent and their excellence.
Well, I think it comes, I think, with practice, doesn't it? Because Bill always said, you learn by your failures. He was wonderfully accurate. He had people from universities older, because he could give all this information to the geologists and everybody before they drilled. And then they would find he was deadly accurate. So then they were saying, okay, how does this man get all this information when he doesn't know anything about the area? This is, totally unknown territory to him.
One thing I want to know from you, two very important points are there. One is, when people are coming to Sir Bill Cox to learn the dowsing skill, as far as my view is concerned, according to my observation closely, it is very difficult to teach someone the style of dowsing unless and until he has a good connection with the subconscious. And people sometimes they feel that I am not willing to teach my subject to others. No. This kind of ambiguity I have faced many times. But actually, if sometimes they try to use this device, Aurametre or L-dowsing or lacquer antenna forcefully, and they don't understand that it is automatically it starts moving. You don't have to create any pressure into it. And lot of people, they try to understand that how I am creating this magic. They feel that I am doing something magic, so that machine is moving. So it is very difficult that way to make people understand. It is a very big ambiguity.
To answer your question, Rohit, but just one thing I know that Bill would say when you were talking about when he was teaching students, and he didn't have students that would come here and learn. He had one person that was a closer student that would go out with him sometimes, but he found it he was so busy in his world writing and lecturing, and that he really didn't have the time to have anybody specifically here, but he put the information out there like you've learned as much as he could, so that people would have the tools to learn themselves. But I know what he would say to you is, if something is working for you, as it is with the way that you do your dowsing, trust it. Trust your own intuition. Trust the way that you and the Aurametre, the Aurametre becomes an extension of you, as you've seen. So as it becomes an extension of yourself, this field of energy is just working through the nervous system, through the brain, through the consciousness, through the brain, then through the nervous system. So trust the way your intuition is teaching you. If that works for you with doing the numbers, then trust it. I know that's what Bill would say to you. Don't try to undo what is already working for you. If it is working for you, don't try to undo it. Because the Aurametre is teaching you in its way. So trust that. If it isn't working for you, then obviously, but if something is working, go, as Bill would say, go for it. So, and I think it's one of the things I would also say to you is, in just talking to you here, have confidence in your inner connection to the inner world, to the purity of your heart, to the impurity of your intent, because it comes through you so clearly. And trust that deeper part of yourself that knows and is coming through you to help other people. Trust it, and trust yourself, and have confidence in yourself. And I can feel Bill as I'm saying that. I can feel Bill. And when Bill is around, I get tearful. When Bill is around, I get tearful. And when I'm just getting a little bit tearful now.
Yeah. It happens because I can see this.
I could feel. See, hold on. I don't. My subconscious. I mean, I'm way. Way far than all of you, right? But when Davina, you started talking, I was about to say that here goes Bill. Trust me, I could feel it before even you started saying that this is what Bill would say. The sentence when you said this is what Bill would say to you. In my heart, I felt that, it's Bill going to talk now.
Yes. I really feel that because we were in such telepathic rapport and there's always been such tremendous energy between us, even after 13 years in his past. I still feel he's just, he's just here.
Wow.
He's just here. I tell you what we have, we're just about to, what happened, the website dowsing.com, we'd had for years and years and years. And then when the COVID hit, and something happened with the website, it collapsed completely. And we'd had another website linked to it called Aurametre.com, which we're just about to work on and put up. And on that site is a picture, and I'm not quite sure where the actual photograph is. I have it here in our research. But on that dowsing site, which will go up soon and be linked to our website, will be some pictures, Rohit, and I can let you know when there's up. If I can find the original pictures of it, which are in files, I can send that to you in an email. But in the meantime, these photos will also go up on this website, aurametre.com, which will be linked to our other website. But he had these, so he would carry these devices around, and it was so labor intensive because he'd have to put one down and then use another and put one down, use another. But with the Aurametre, it was 5 instruments in one. So that was such a huge help for him. But I think, and Bill, when he was map dowsing, would use a professional Aurametre. You've probably seen the professional Aurametre on our website, where there's a long needle pointer that detached to the neck. So when Bill is going over the map that means that long needle pointer, when it reaches an area that he's requested, it starts to dip down specifically to that location. Anyway, map dowsing for people can be very, very hard. And plus the fact, if you find that there's a missing person and you feel that they have met her, they're dead, that they've met her, then you don't want to bring that bad news to the parents or to the people, the relatives, in case they're not. I mean, it's a huge responsibility to say, well, I feel this. And Bill had worked with the FBI on a very important case here in the United States, very successfully. So there's so I'm trying to say, there's so many interactions of energy fields. And then one thing, like when you were saying we were dowsing for the election, and one thing Bill always taught, and it's not an easy thing to do, is to be absolutely clear that your consciousness, you don't have any attachment when you're asking the question to what you want the answer to be. Because the minute you do that, you're not in that non-dualistic state. You're not in that space that is beyond the duality, which is the clear space where the consciousness can come unimpeded right the way through. So you have to be sort of really careful that you're not really secretly wishing for one person to win the election over another, even though we think that we're not. You have to be really, because these subtle fields can influence that answer. So it's always an important thing to be very clear with the question and have no attachment to what the answer might be, because that can throw you completely off, As you know, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but that may have been what happened with me.
Really, I don't know much about the way actually the subject is, but it is a huge subject. It is a very, very huge subject, and it is almost like a very big ocean,
Yes.
endless queries, endless answers coming in a flow, very difficult and
Absolutely. Absolutely. All these frequencies of energy. And I think one of the things that Bill always stressed, Rohit, is that you've got to be so clear in your question. You can't have two questions in one. You know what I mean? You've got to be totally focused on just one, and then surrendering that to the intuition, and clear that that's, you know, that moment, that is the field of energy you're focusing on for a response. So that takes a lot of skill for you to do that with patience.
I have to go to the thoughtless state. I have to reach to the thoughtless state immediately with a fraction of a second.
Yes.
And then I try to detect the answer.
Yes.
So I can't connect myself with the previous one. But the point is, the Aurametre is so communicative. If I ask one question, it starts giving a number of answers.
That's
in
interesting.
Different manner. And the Aurametre is giving all the possible answers with detailing.
Yes.
So that is the greatness of Aurametre, because it says about if I ask about you, it will start saying, first of all, your magnanimity, your aura level, your aura strength, your background, your health, your mental status. So I have to go in specific. That
yes,
I want
absolutely.
To know about a spiritual status.
Yes.
Then it will start talking a lot of things. Then I have to go very specific. I want to know about the Agya Chakra, crown chakra, or I want to know about the Anahat Chakra, which we call hard chakra, or sacral.
Yes.
It starts talking about sacral so much. It goes to the spinal cord. It goes to the kidney function. It is in the urinary level, urinary tract infections. It talks about the nephron level. It talks about the uterus. It starts speaking everything.
Yes.
So then I have to go in specific again.
Yes.
Aurametre has that wonderful ability to go to the depth of it.
Yes, and that is awesome.
Which I didn't get in any other devices.
Yes.
Because if you see L-dowsing, they yes or no. If you talk about the pendulum, yes, no, or the torque. Torque matters. But I used Aurametre as pendulum also.
Yes.
You know that it works as a pendulum also.
Yes.
So it is a phenomenal experience to working with Aurametre. But I am more interested to know that while Sir Bill Cox was teaching to his students, what he used to guide to his students and how he taught his nearest students and best students. I want to know all these things.
Well, he had a lot of he had students all over the world, really. I mean, they would... I think what happened, Rohit, when Bill would start lecturing, and when he began talking, even, you know, if you have sort of a CD, or the minute he starts the talk, then you're in his aura and you're next to him and he's teaching you. So I think what happened when he would give lectures and there's students there physically, whether it's in Europe or Japan or wherever, America, you know, in different parts of the world, wherever it was, that his aura was the teaching.
Wow.
If you know what I mean, you could learn so much just from, and so if you have a cassette of Bill or a CD of Bill's or something like that, just the minute you start listening, he's there teaching. You don't have to be with him because the field of his consciousness is everywhere. And so just I am not, I have a feeling that this is Bill talking through me here now.
Oh,
And
wow.
then,
Okay.
and so then just know, and this is what I feel is, I can feel, this is what I feel is coming through from Bill. As you begin to listen to that, you're in touch with his aura and his energy, and it's teaching you. Because I had this wonderful teacher in Britain that used to say to me, the words, listen to what's behind the words. Listen to the teaching, that's the subtle teachings that are going on, not the words so much, but what's the subtle feel. So it's like when Bill is there, if you're listening to Bill's voice, you're downloading some of Bill at that time. You know what I mean? So he's there teaching, he's there with you, helping. So, and so I think that was what would happen when he was lecturing, whether it was in wherever it was, his aura was the teaching. And that I think is what his gift is, not so much being physically with him. You don't have to be. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right. We feel it.
Actually, I realized the presence of his aura every time. Whenever I was facing any trouble or in a complicated situation,
yes,
I tried to connect Verne Cameron sir and Sir Bill Cox, and I could realize their presence, and they supported me. Because that in our field, hardly there are any teacher
yes,
or anyone else who can guide us. And 99.99% people, they are not believer of this subject.
yes.
And people always discouraging all these things. They keep on doubting us, and they use a lot of unprecedented language for these subject. So challenges are there everywhere. But whenever I have some queries, wherever I feel that I need a guidance, I always remember my Guruji, and then I try to connect Sir Verne Cameron and Sir Bill Cox.
Yes.
I always believe that their divine energy and their presence, it helped me like anything. It is helping me today even, and it is unbelievable, which I can express. Because when you are on field, lot of complications are coming.
Yes.
And in India, I'm really fortunate that I interact with thousands of cases.
Yes.
Not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is numbers, huge numbers of cases which I deal with. And that is the reason my practice is huge.
Yes.
And I'm really grateful to my clients and my friends and my all the people, those who are coming to me by believing my subject. And actually, they always come to me for the healing part and for the alleviation part. But without a correct detection, alleviation is next to impossible. Because in Hindu culture, we believe in chakra.
Yes,
all the energy
so did Bill. So did Bill.
Yeah,
much so.
Yeah, the energy centers like Muladhara chakra, Swadhisthana chakra, Manipur chakra, Anahat chakra, Vishuddhi chakra, Agya chakra, and Sahasrara. So when I start healing, if I can get an idea about the position, so we need to go for the anatomy, human anatomy in detail.
Yes.
So I'm really thankful to the divine energy of Sir Bill Cox and Sir Verne Cameron. I didn't get the chance to see them physically, but I realized their presence every second, every moment. And you can say it is an amazing experience that I always get in guidance from their divine soul. And so I am getting from you equally. So I really privileged and thankful to you the way you are trying to guide me, the way you watched his functionaries. I want to know about that in specific.
Well, yes, well, the thing when Bill, because the Aurameter, when he was holding it, it was a very unconscious, it was so connected to the Aurameter that he would just be sort of walking. He'd always walk with one hand held up when he was working in the field, say for water. He would, because this was the receiving hand energetically, and the aurameter was in the right hand. So he would just be walking very relaxed and casually, just holding the aurameter, making sure that the aurameter, that the thumb was not holding the spring. So the aurameter had a complete flexibility, that you weren't holding it in such a way that it was, the spring was not having the freedom to move and the flexibility to move. But when Bill was sort of working and holding the aurameter, it's almost as if he wasn't focusing on the aurameter, because that brings in the left brain thinking, because people try too hard to concentrate on the aurameter rather than realizing it's an extension of the autonomic nervous system. So he was just relaxing and not focusing on the aurameter at all, other than the difference in the weight of if the aurameter started moving, then that would be its signal to him that something was happening. But usually when he was walking, he wasn't holding it tightly and saying, oh, when is it going to move? He just sort of held it and then forgot about it until he felt the movement of it. And that's when he would make a note that there was a change. But the mistake people make, Rohit, and it doesn't sound as if you do this, it sounds as if you have such a symbiotic energy with the aurameter. But with Bill, it was always just relaxed and holding it, but he wasn't focused on the aurameter. He was focused on the feel of the aurameter as to its movement, but holding it and gripping it hard and looking for it to do something is not the way to go, because you're not accessing the deeper part of your energy then. It's just an extension of you. And I think often Bill found that little children were better with the aurameter because they would just hold it and just go along, because they weren't intellectualizing it.
Wow.
They were just
innocence.
Yes, just holding it, just waiting for a response without the intent of focusing on it. It's there, but you pretty much are just holding it and letting it go. Yeah.
I am strongly realizing that he is around you and his presence is there. So I'm more curious to know that what kind of signal you were receiving every day or immediately after he passed away.
Okay. Well, one of the things for many, many years, Bill had been working on an idea for animation. It's about the physics, really, of the quantum physics field, but done in what we say here, Alice in Wonderland type of fantasy. But it's all about the principle of rotation and physics, rotational physics. And so before Bill died, he'd been working on it for many, 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 many years with a friend in Copenhagen. I had promised him, because he died here at home. I took care of him here before he died. And he died at home, and my promise was I would try and finish this project because it was a thing. So anyway, the friend that lives in Copenhagen, who was the physics side of things, was visiting, and we were going, I'm in the office I am now, and there was a very big chair here that Bill used to sit in. And I felt devastated I knew he hadn't died, but I still felt the tremendous loss, because we were together 24/7. We did everything together 24/7, literally. And he used to sit in this wonderful chair, and there was a tall lamp nearby. So anyway, Bob was here, and he was sitting in Bill's desk, which was opposite mine. And we were discussing this animation idea. And then all of a sudden we got to a part which I knew was very dear to Bill's heart. And as I suddenly said, but I said to Bob, you know what, let's just take this part out, because I can't really see this importance of this. And then as I said that, the light went out. We'd had this light on by the chair. So the light went out. And Bob said, geez, Debbie, I think Bill might be here. And we laughed. So we started talking for another sort of 30 minutes about this particular thing. And then we said, okay, well, let's go ahead and put it back in, and we'll expand on it. And as we said that, the light went back on. And so I began to realize that Bill was communicating through this light. So sometimes I'd be sitting here late at night and working on this animation idea or whatever. And one night I was sort of just by the chair, actually shredding some stuff. And I mentally sort of said, "Oh, darling, I really miss you. I wish you were here. And if you were here, would you make the light go? The light was on. Would you make the light go off?" Just as a playful thing. And the light went off. And I said, "If that's really you, well, can you make it go back on?" So my communications with Bill came through this light, and then this tremendous feeling of him being here, just being here, fully present and being here.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
Whatever the time I'm talking to you, this entire period, I'm realizing the strong presence of that divine energy. And really, it is an endless conversation. I'm feeling like talking to you like hours and hours.
Oh, it's wonderful to talk to you both. It's lovely to be in touch with you both. And, you know, if we want, we can have more conversations. I'm happy to help any way I can.
The other thing is, you know, Dada, what she mentioned is, you know, there is somebody in Japan who is still teaching. You know,
I don't know. I mean, he was a wonderful person, and we made quite a few trips to Japan. And sometimes I will tell you some of because Bill did many TV interviews and did a lot of television interviews, and you know, he lectured a lot. But I think, as I mentioned to Parag the first time we were talking, the thing with Bill, and I'm sure it's the thing with you, that not only could he do the dowsing wonderfully successful in whatever way it needed to be done, whether it was in whatever field of the dowsing, because you can dowse for anything. It was a very unusual story how Bill and Verne Cameron met. Very, very unusual story. And then Bill used to go and work with Verne in the field. Bill had never heard of dowsing until he met Verne Cameron, and then they had this relationship. Bill had been writing for a quarterly journal on people in Southern California, ancient things in California. And then somebody told him, and people of interest. So somebody told him about this interesting character called Verne Cameron. So would Bill go and do an article about it? So Bill went, and he said, well, he read up on him. He said, well, either this man is a magician or he's sort of a fake, or he's, you know. So Bill went and interviewed Verne, did a very nice article on him, which Verne liked. Bill found him amazingly interesting. And anyway, Verne rang up and said, Bill, would you ghostwrite a book for me? I like the way you handled the article. I have all this material I want to share, but I'm not a writer. So would you? So Bill said to him, well, if I'm to do that, I need to come in the field and work with you so as I can understand and explain to the reader what you are doing. So, and Verne said yes. So Bill started working with Verne in the field, and then discovered that he could do it as well as Verne could. And so when Verne died, not long after, Mrs. Cameron the calls that were coming in for Verne Cameron, Mrs. Cameron began to pass to Bill, and that's how Bill started dowsing and using the Aurameter.